I'm gonna stop the share here for a moment and introduce Deborah. Deborah, welcome aboard. How are you?
Thanks. I'm
Thank you.
doing awesome. How are you doing, Ed?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I got to hold this up for everyone to see because you and I spoke away I guess last week, and we wrote an article for the Leader. And look at this. Look at you on the front page of the Leader Observer. There. How do I get this? There we go. There we go. There we go. That's a big front cover there. We were very very happy to see that. Great coverage by the Leader, putting us on the front page there. And what did that feel like seeing that?
Wow, that felt like such an honor. It felt like everything I've been working towards since I'm 3 years old has finally started to come to a fruition.
Uh-huh.
And it's just so inspiring to see that if I can do it, anybody can do it. You know, anybody that has that passion and that thing that they love to do, the thing that makes them feel most alive, if they can get to that point to not only do art for themselves, but to inspire others, that's what's really amazing about that.
Now, have you had any reaction to the cover from friends, family, and different people?
Oh yes, my mom was so proud of me. She gave me a huge hug, and she saw it in the bank, and she called me right away. She said, "Debbie, I see you in the paper. You're on the page. You're on the front page."
Oh, that's
And
great.
yeah, then my fiance was saying, "Congrats. You know, I always believed in you. You know that." And my friends were so proud of me. You know, I shared it on Facebook, and they were all, congratulating me. But I feel like, this isn't the end. This is just the beginning of just keep working towards my dream.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely, it's the beginning of your dreams, beginning of our dream to bring everyone together. It's just a great start, and we're really really happy. And we thank everyone for joining us tonight on this on this first step. So we're gonna go and take a look at your work and your life here in Woodhaven in a minute. We're gonna go back to the slideshow. But I had a couple questions here to start our interview with. So this past year, what has life been like for an artist in the middle of a pandemic, particularly one like yourself, who makes a living painting, a lot of times painting outside and painting mostly for businesses?
well, it's been such a roller coaster, let me tell you. I didn't see this. This came out of left field. And as an artist, you need to know how to adapt because this type of life, it's very unstable as far as financial concerns go. So you always have to sort of expect the unexpected.
Uh-huh.
So when this hit, I said, I need to adapt. I'm not just going to depend on my window art. I'm going to expand. I'm going to do more digital art. I'm going to do different mediums, and I'm going to try to sell my work on shirts, on masks, and try to get clients in that way as well. So I sort of switched my focus. Mm-hmm. So instead of the window art, I was still pursuing that, but I knew, the businesses aren't going to do that well right now. And if they're not doing well, I'm not going to be doing well either because, they depend on everybody else like we depend on them. So, it's a mutual thing. So that's why I decided to switch my focus to my Redbubble store. And, I've been working on that. It's been a little bit up and down, just like it always is, but it's something.
So. Well, I know to explain to folks at home, we're going to be seeing more of it when Deborah talks about window art. She paints windows of businesses, and I saw a number of them around here in Woodhaven years ago. I mean, about 8-9 years ago, I guess it was when I first became aware of your work. And I think it was Woodhaven Pharmacy was one that I had noticed. I had seen a few other places, and I tell you what was funny. One day, a couple of years after we had met you, I was in Manhattan. I was in the city, and I was walking down the street with some friends. It was around Christmas. And we passed by I think it was like I don't know if it was a restaurant or something. And we passed by it, and I'm looking at your work, and I recognize it right away. And I'm like, that looks like Deborah's work. And I was like tempted to take a picture so I could send it to you to say, wow, this person does it just like you. And then I saw your name there on it, and I was like, wow, you really get around. That's great. So you do great work on these windows. Tell us about your very first window. What was that like? How did you get that? Did you go up cold calling places? How did that first one come about?
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because that window sort of ended up finding me in a way because like I was on Craigslist and I was scrolling around and I saw something on a creative gig that said, oh, there's a big window and we want somebody to paint it. And before that, I never painted window art before. And I've only painted, like canvas and large scale paper. I said, let me give it a shot. It's a pet store. I love drawing animals and I have a lot of characters I made up. So let me just send them my work anyway and explain that I haven't done it before, but I'm willing to try. And I have worked large scale. I didn't expect an answer. I got an answer and they wanted to see me and they wanted to see my concept to do a spring window, with pets. So I thought of this baseball idea, having their team pet menu versus the other pet stores to show that their pet store can win. And I put a huge stadium with all different kinds of animals and they wanted to take the chance on me. And they said, you know what, we love this concept, can you do it? And they gave me the opportunity and I was so grateful. Of course, I had to do some research about how do you paint on a window, so I ended up buying some pieces of glass and looking up the different kinds of paint. And then I was testing it at home. So I was able to, be able to do that for them. It took me a while, a lot longer than how I paint today, but I was so grateful to get that first chance. And then they kept calling me. And then it sort of snowballed from there and I ended up picking up more people along the years. So that's how it started.
So now do you paint is it on the outside that you're painting?
I do both ways actually. And the outside is easier for me. That's the way I first learned how to do it because that's like painting on a traditional canvas. You start with the line work and then the color and then the shading and then the highlights. But I've also had to learn how to do it in reverse, which means writing. If you're going to write something, you have to write this way. What happens is if you're going to do it backwards, you have to do the outline first. But if you're going to try to make the characters look three-dimensional, the first layer of paint that you put is the first layer that you see from the outside of the window. So you have to put the shading first, and then the highlights, and last, the base color. So that's how that would work. You have to think backwards because if you put the base color first, that's all you're going to see on the outside of the window. You won't see any of the detail. So you have to get your line work very precise the first time because if there's any little mistake, it would be seen from the outside. So that's why it's a little bit more technical to do it, in reverse, but it can be done. I give people both options to do that because sometimes stores have issues like with the inside done versus the outside. So I know how to do both ways. So
that's interesting. So what are some of the stores that you've done around here in Woodhaven and the surrounding areas that people would know?
Well, one of my first ones, unfortunately, it's no longer in business, was the Woodhaven Pharmacy. That was one of my first windows in Woodhaven. And I was very grateful to change his window every couple of weeks, for the different seasons. But more recently, one of the windows I've done was for Nears. So Loy, he hired me to paint his winter scene quite recently, actually. A couple of weeks ago, I did it for him for the winter season. And I came up with this whole winter wonderland theme with like the little log cabins and the snowflakes falling. And then on his door, he had a snowman and a snow girl, and they were like opening the door to greet everybody. So I want to make it look cute, lively, animated. I want it to capture people. So those are some of the stores I've done here in the past. Oh, and a little off the side, I did as well. But this year I couldn't do them because the barbershop wasn't doing their Santa anymore. They usually have a Santa coming every year, and I would paint for them to promote that, with a Santa on the window with a barbershop theme. So those are some of the windows I've done in Woodhaven.
When I see your work, and we're going to be going through your work in a moment or two here, but it's very, very upbeat, very enthusiastic, very happy. When you're out painting outside, what kind of reactions? I mean, it's very interesting when you think about it. Like, for a lot of artists, it's a solitary thing. They're alone with their thoughts when they're creating. But you're out in the street. You've got you're painting sometimes for an audience. What kind of reaction do you get while you're painting?
Oh, I get a lot of, wow, that's nice. I love it. Or, sometimes I would get like these older people would walk by and they say, you you just gave me a nice smile for the day. You know, I can't wait to see it done. I said, oh, come back in a couple of hours, you'll see it, you know, still working on it. And sometimes I would be out there for hours and I would see the same person walk right by again and say, wow, look at all the progress. You know, is it finished? It looks finished. I said, almost. I'm just putting a little finishing touches. Then the little kids especially would love to look at it. Ooh, yeah, like they're like that. You know, their eyes light up and they're like, I love to paint too. I love to draw. I said, well, keep doing it. Because when I was a kid, I loved to do it too. And then sometimes they would tell me a little bit about their life story, how they were an artist as well at one point, but then they gave it up to do their office job. And I said, you know, it's never too late. You could always try again. You know, it's never too late to start. So
speaking of never too late, tell us about, I forget, was it your great grandfather?
Yeah, it was my great grandfather, No. We called him No. His name was Aroni, but you know, No is Italian for grandpa, but he's my great grandpa.
Okay. And now your studio right now was his studio.
Yes, that's correct. I'm sitting right in the very room he created.
Oh, wow, that's great. Now what age did he start painting at?
Oh, around 75 he started.
Great.
So
that's great. And you still have his work?
Yes, I do. A lot of landscape work. He loved to do landscapes of Italy, his hometown in Florence, and he loved to paint horses, stuff like that.
Oh, that's great. It's never too late, and it's never too early. How old were you when you first started drawing and painting and becoming an artist?
Since as long as I can remember, so maybe around 3, since that's when my memory started forming.
Sure.
So yeah, always was into that. Always wanted the coloring books for a gift instead of a video game. Always into like the, you know, the nice paper, you know, versus the small, you know, the thinner paper. Like I would be aware of that kind of stuff. Like I want to paint on the good paper, mommy. You know, like, I would say stuff like that, and always into that kind of stuff.
Now tell us a little bit about growing up here in Woodhaven, the schools you went to, and some of the encouragement that you received.
Oh yes, I went to the schools all here. Well, PS 97. Then I went to Ozone Park, the 210. So those are the ones that were local here. So in those schools, I was very encouraged by my teachers, and not just my art teachers. You know, even my English teachers would see, you know, I would draw like a book cover for my book report, and they would always comment on that because I wanted to put not just the effort in my writing, but I wanted to make sure the art had to be good. So I remember doing a giraffe once. I had to do like a little summary about them, and I looked in all the different library books to get just the perfect reference for a giraffe. I was in 4th grade, and I wanted to draw it just right, so I just kept trying to practice and practice. And you know, I remember drawing that, and Miss Ferguson, she was so happy to see that. She said, wow, it's so detailed, it's so pretty. You know, you put a lot of effort into it, Debbie. And I said, yeah, thank you. You know, I want to do my best. So I wanted to try to illustrate the giraffe through words and through art. So
I know, you know, growing up, I still remember all my teachers, and I know when we spoke last week, you were talking about one of your teachers who was very influential to you.
Oh yes, that's Miss Rudnick. She was my art teacher in PS 97, and she was the one who influenced that style of like, your imagination is truly limitless. Like you don't just have to draw what you see. I mean, that's important too if you want to practice like references and stuff, but she said you could also draw from in here too. You know, you don't have to look all the time. You could look from within your face and in your behind your, you know, inside what's going on in here, because that's where the creativity is. So that really was encouraging to hear at such a young age too. Like instead of somebody telling me, you have to do it this way and this is the only way to do it, she would tell me, no, you can do it this way, you can do it that way, you know, whichever way you want to go with it. Like she'll start with an idea, but then I could finish it. So that was so beautiful to me to have a teacher like that.
Oh, that's great. Tell me, we've talked about this briefly in the past, but you know, as a group, our organization and the artists we gather together, what do you think we can do to really help encourage that spark of creativity in the young kids of our community?
Well, I think we could encourage them through some projects and maybe through some classes perhaps. So, or maybe something to do with both, maybe like a mural that we can do maybe with the kids helping, you know, like that way, like a part of them could be inside that mural, because they would be so proud to see like a little piece of them Like
Sure.
everybody could give a little piece of themselves within that mural. And, you know, as far as the subject of the mural goes, it's open to anything really, but definitely as far as general terminalities go, like something about maybe like something positive, something bright, something happy, something fun,
Hmm.
you know, something different too. It would be interesting, you know, instead of something conventional, something a
Right.
little out there, but with
Hmm.
a story, something with a story to tell. So I think if people could walk by and see that, and
Mhm.
then like they feel so much better, you know, and they look at it and then they try to read it, you know, almost like a
Sure.
storybook but without words.
Nice. Very nice.
So
All right. Well, let's dive into this now. Let's take a look. Let me get my glasses on here, and we'll we're gonna do this. There we go. Can everyone see that now? We're good now.
mhm.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try and unmute everybody. If you've got background noise, please. How do I do this now? Hold on a second. Oh, I don't know how to do this right now. Oh, I'll just figure it out along the way. I'll unmute everyone shortly. So here we go. Deborah, a lot of the pictures I have of you are you're all bundled up.
Yeah. Yep, that's correct because it gets pretty cold out there, especially with the Christmas season.
Mhm.
So
Oh, that's a nice picture of you there. And what was this? What was this store right here?
oh, this was a grooming salon that was in
Uh-huh.
Ozone Park. It was around, I think, 91st Street. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, they're no longer there. This
Hmm.
was actually one of my last windows I did for them. And they wanted something just, you know, with pets and like a winter Christmas theme. So I thought of something like this. And I actually ended up caricaturing my dog and my cat that I used to have. So
Ah.
that's kind of a caricature of my dog Cody and my kitty Riley, and then another friend of theirs up on
Ah.
Cody's head with all the snowflakes falling down.
Oh, nice. Nice. Very nice. Here's another one of you outdoors. A bigger window. I mean, what's the biggest window you've painted?
Oh boy, it's something that I had to climb on almost the last step of the ladder.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Let's put it that way. I'm not afraid of heights. Yeah, I'm pretty sturdy on my legs, so
Uh-huh.
I'm not afraid to go as high as I need to go. And actually, the bigger the window is, the more exciting it is to me
Hmm.
because then, you know, like it'll stand out on the boulevard. Like, you know, that's the point of the window art is to draw attention to the store. So
Uh-huh.
you want it to be as big and bold as possible and to send the message that the owner wants to send. So
Mhm.
that's what I try to do for everybody. Like this owner, this pizzeria, he wanted like a simple Christmas village. And, you know, I made the sketch for him first and then I texted it to him and he approved it. And then I turned it from a simple sketch to a painting directly on the glass.
That's great.
Thanks.
And yeah, we have a few pictures of you here. Like I said, it's nice. And now, what is it like? You know, a lot of other artists. I'm sitting in a room. My dad had paintings. I still have them. You have got your great grandfather's paintings. You still have them. But a lot of these paintings that you do are temporary. I mean, it's temporary art. It goes up and then it comes down. What's the process like when you take it down? Is that hard to do?
Well, the thing is, I don't take the windows down anymore.
Uh-huh.
So I tell the owner, like, how do you get it down? And it's quite
Okay.
simple, really. All
Mhm.
they have to do is they spray the window with the Windex and then they let it wait for about a minute. And then they take the scraper blade and then it comes off in little pieces, almost like a sticker. So that's how
Wow.
the owner removes the window.
Very nice. Let's see. Here we go here. So now we're getting to your life here. You gave me some pictures here. Your life in Woodhaven. These are really delightful to look at. So tell us what we're looking at here, and tell us who we're looking at.
You're looking at me and my mom on my first day of kindergarten in PS 97, entering through the backyard. So you can see I'm a little bit resistant to
Hmm.
go because I didn't know what kind of experience I was going to have. I was a little bit nervous, but you know, I felt a lot more at peace once I actually got settled in. So
That's nice. And I've met your mom many times. She's a very nice, very nice lady. Very lucky to have a sweet mom.
Thank you.
And here you are. Tell us who you're with here.
Oh, that's one of my best friends. That was Lassie. She was my dog from my childhood, and I adored her. And I used to always love to draw pictures of her. Ever since I could remember, she would pose for me, and then I would put little bows on her head sometimes and try to draw her with the bow. And those heart-shaped sunglasses. I still wear heart-shaped sunglasses to this day. I've always loved those. I would put it on Lassie's nose, to make it pose on her. So I always loved dressing up my pets when I was a little girl.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, that's my cousin's dog. That's Blondie. And that's me trying to attempt to draw. I'm looking at all my little markers here, and I think I might end up drawing on her, actually. I'm not sure. I was only 3 in this picture, but even back then, I was so fascinated. I was looking at all the supplies needed to make art, and I knew, oh, this makes color, this makes magic. Like, it felt like magic to me as a little kid. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that kit of all the crayons and everything, crayons and markers, and that's great.
Thanks.
Now,
Yeah.
are these the ones we saw in the on the window?
Yeah, that was my Cody and my Riley. They were my inspiration for that window, and for a lot of things in my life. They were some of my best friends as well. And they loved each other, as you can see. They got along like brothers. Yeah, that's me with my childhood cat Tina, and she's posing with me, and I'm eating some popcorn, probably thinking of what I'm going to draw next. And I know the picture's cropped, but above my head were some of my drawings. Like they weren't exactly technically sufficient compared to what I can do now, but my mom even back then would hang up my drawings on the wall or on the refrigerator, because she wanted to encourage me, because she was also an artist as well as my grandmother. So we all love to draw on my mother's side of the family.
Nice. And here you go, growing up.
Yeah, that's me in 7th, 8th grade, around there, when I was in 210. And my art teacher, Miss Schur, I loved that teacher also. She was very into the hippie era in the 1960s, and so was I, even as a child. And I wanted to do a little collage of the 1960s. So that's what I ended up thinking of, something to show with the Beatles, the peace sign, landing on the moon. So I tried to show all different parts of it, and I drew that with pastel. She was into teaching us how to use that medium, and that was pretty new to me back in middle school. So that was fun. Yep, that's me and Nono, me and Aroni. He's the founding father, I would say, of all the artists in my family. And he's about 100 here in this picture, 101.
Wow.
He lived to 104. So he had a very healthy life. He was never stressed. He did what he loved. Even if he started later in life, that's something that made him feel very alive. And I was attempting to draw something, on the little Etch-a-Sketch type of screen. So even back then, I was trying to practice how to draw, and always showing him and always speaking to him in Italian. I used to know Italian back then. And I used to have so much fun drawing for him. Oh, that's my Nono, and that's his daughter. That's my grandmother, Marcella. So she loved to draw too. She liked to do little caricatures, in her little journals. And she used to love watching me as well, to paint and to draw. She only saw me till I was 6 years old, unfortunately. She died of pancreatic cancer, but I do remember her very well still, and I want to continue to try to make her proud from beyond. Oh, that's one of my favorite pictures. That's me, my mom, and my late stepfather, Michael. Michael used to come to all my windows. He would have the camera always in his back pocket and constantly taking snapshots when I was painting. And that little newspaper article that was written about me in 2013, I remember he had it in his pocket also, and he would show his friends. So he was very proud of me. He would always carry little pieces of my art with him. And he was the most gracious person I've ever met. And I wish he was still here. Yeah, that's me and my fiance. That's Dave. one of my biggest supporters of my art. He's always encouraging me to go for my dreams. He's always cheering me on in the background, and he likes to paint and draw too, but more for fun as opposed like a hobby thing he does it for. But I always try to encourage him to dig deeper because I know there's more in there. Just like everybody has an inner artist. I always try to bring it out in everybody I love. So that's Dave.
Nice.
Oh, this is a cool window. I liked this one. You know, every once in a while I get the opportunity to do a Valentine's window and come up with all the different characters. So, I wanted to do something that's very colorful and cutesy. So I drew like a little frog couple sitting on the swing. And then you see the little flower bouquet shaped like a heart with the two hands holding. I wanted to show it, like very whimsical and, sort of balanced too, as far as technical goes. Like I want to make it symmetrical, but at the same time, like I wanted to tell some kind of story. So that's why you see all these different things going on with the flower petals, and they're sort of blending into the phone number and the words.
It's funny when we were talking last week. You had told me you don't get as many Valentine's Day windows because it's really just a one-day holiday as opposed to a lot of the other ones, which are more seasons, where you'll get more windows because they'll be up longer. What's your biggest season?
Definitely Christmas. That's the biggest one / winter, I would say, because sometimes they don't want it to be so specific to Christmas. So they'll ask for something more winter scene so they could keep it up to like February, around there. Okay. So yeah, that's definitely my busiest season. And that's why you always see me bundled up, because we're in New York City. Oh, that was fun too. That was, you could see the scale of that rooster. That was in Don Nico's. It's in Jamaica. And it's a Spanish restaurant. And he wanted to show the mascot, for the restaurant, which is a rooster. But he said, make sure you make this rooster very colorful, very proud, very prominent, sort of like he's strutting around with his head slightly up. I said, you got it. So, I was able to emulate this rooster, piece by piece. Now, drawing on a wall is quite different from painting on a window. So I think it's actually harder. I think because I've been doing windows so long. So when I do get the opportunity to paint a wall, you have to be more precise with it. Like you can't just scrape it off if you made a mistake. Like you have to physically erase the pencil line. So it takes a little bit longer, but the reward is still the same. You get to have this big piece of art that, everybody sees. And this rooster is actually hanging out right near the bathroom. You can't see it, but he's kind of in that area.
All right.
Like, he's like the mascot saying, okay, if you have to go to the bathroom, just follow me along. I'm pointing with my beak.
Now, what was your most unusual or challenging request or job that you had?
Oh, I didn't show it, but not only I wish I had the picture with me, but the most unusual thing I've ever had to paint was actually a dummy. Like I had to refurbish and repaint a dummy to make it look like, it was brand new and alive. And it was a dummy in front of a pizzeria, and it was in Brooklyn. It was in Park Slope. And, the guy, because he had my number, to do windows, but he said, could you do dummies too? Could you paint them? Could you make them look nice? I said, yeah, I think so. I don't see why not. So I brought the colors I needed. I brought some like little clay pieces, like to plug up the holes. Because, this dummy was really in bad shape. Like he looked like the weather I've gotten to him. So, I plugged up all the holes. I painted him over a couple of times and he looked brand new. I shined his shoes, everything. So he looked like he was made yesterday as opposed to 100 years ago. So that was very unusual, but very fun to do.
Here we go again outside. And I want everyone to take note of Deborah's number there. It's on every one of her windows there, 718-296-8178. If you're interested in hiring her for one of your windows, certainly reach out and give her a call. And I think that it's really nice. That's how I came to know you. That's actually how I got in touch with you, was through that number from a Woodhaven Pharmacy.
Yes, thank you.
Here's a big scene here.
Oh yes, this was one of my first clients. That was the pet menu I was talking about earlier that took the chance on me. So this was that same year, but for Christmas. My first window ever was in July that year.
Uh-huh.
Then they wanted something again for Christmas. So I thought of this scene with all the animals, like little elves working in a toy shop and, getting ready for Christmas for Santa's sleigh. And then I put a window within a window that you can see outside
Yeah.
with Santa getting ready, to load up his sleigh with the toys. I wanted to put all the details in it. And in this case, he wanted the whole window covered because he had a lot of boxes inside. So he didn't want any like see-through areas. He said, make sure you cover the whole thing. Now, usually 9 out of 10 times, the store owners do want some of the window to be seen to let light in.
Right.
But, I can do any style the person wants me to do. So if they want the whole thing covered, I can do that too. So that's in this case.
Now, how long did something like this take?
Well, this one, since it was one of my first windows, this took me, I think like 5 days, like 5 8-hour days, something like that. Like now this thing could take me maybe 2 days, something like that.
Yeah, you learn shortcuts here, And was this the one you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, that's my first window I've ever done for them. So that was the one with the pet menu team versus the other team. And I want to show that pet menu got 100. I know you can't see it from here, but I put that they got 100 points and the challenger got 0. Like they were really losing, like against them, like no home runs. And you can't see it from there, but every little animal there has a specific face and a position, and they're holding little signs in it. So, I wanted to show as much of a story as possible. Like I would love to be an illustrator one day for children's books. So I like to do stuff like this on the window, like to illustrate a story, because I think it's very, very important for art to tell a sort of story. Sure. Even if the story is different to everybody, I want to see, what do you see when you see, like I always ask people, what do you see in it? And I love hearing all the different stories. So
yeah, I know. I've read, a lot of times when you'll post pictures of your art, you post a description of it too, and you're very descriptive of your work. You're very enthusiastic, and you talk. There is a lot going on. I mean, in this one here, there is a lot going on. Now, a lot of times, when I write, over the years when I've written, I might be proud of something that I wrote. I really think it's really good, and then 7 or 8 years later, I'll stumble across it and I'll read it, and I'll be excited to read it, and I'll be halfway through and I'll be going, ooh, I've gotten a lot better since then. Do you look at your earlier pieces and look at them and do you look at things that you would do completely different now?
Well, I look at them, but like I see them sort of as preserved in the time that they were done. Like I've always tried my best no matter what year it was. So this is back in 2011. And if I was going to do it now, like I could see, like maybe I could change a couple of things around here and there, maybe bring the sky down so you could see it better. A little technical things, once again, like I would change about it. But as far as like the original idea, that's the first thing that popped in my head when I heard do a spring window for the animals. And that's the idea that I'm glad I came up with, because that's what helped me get my first window. So I wouldn't change anything about it as far as the idea is concerned. Like I just try to grow every day in different ways with the art. So like I never look at something as like, oh, it's a failure. Like, why did I do it this way? Like, I don't like to see them like that. I like to see them sort of like, that's the perfect thing for that perfect moment in time 5-10 years ago. And now it's going to exist in that vacuum. And where I am today, this is what's going on now. And where I'm going to be in 10 years, that's what's going to be going on from now. Nice. So. Oh yes, this was more of like a fall theme. So that's probably my second biggest season, I would say, like the Thanksgiving, fall, Halloween thing going on. And this was for a pizzeria. So that's why you see, I know you can't see it too well from here, but there's a chef and there's a cornucopia oven. He's putting the pizza inside the cornucopia oven, and they're getting ready. The ghost is like raking all the leaves, and all the pumpkins are dancing around, and the turkey's having a ball too. Instead of the turkey being eaten, he's an actual character. So, like I wanted to show him like that in this case. So. That's another Christmas scene for a pet menu that I did, one of my earlier windows. That's the second year that I painted for them. So this was 2012. So, Christmas has so many themes. Like one
I'm
can
sorry,
paint.
are they still in business?
Unfortunately, no. Even before the pandemic, they went out of business like maybe 4 years ago. So they're no longer here, but they were one of my biggest supporters. They always
I could say, yeah.
called me. That one was painted in reverse, the last one.
Oh, here's Woodhaven Pharmacy, which when they closed their doors, your painting was on there. It must have been for over a year. It was still on the window.
It was there for like a couple of years.
Yeah, it was there for a while, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. I guess you can see that my paint is really sturdy. It lasts throughout all the weather. Yeah, that's another one for the Woodhaven Pharmacy I did with the Thanksgiving theme.
Now, this was interesting. This one here, you did a menu for a store. Did you do all the wording and everything?
Yep, I did all the measuring, the wording, the illustrations, everything. That was a huge project, but it was worth it. So, it was worth challenging myself because this type of work, it's very technical. It's very mathy. Like you have to be precise. You can't even be off by like a quarter of an inch or the whole menu, gets messed up. So, that I had to do quite a few layers in order to get all the writing correct. That's all handwritten.
Now here's something different, because I mean, now we're going to look at some different types of your work, a little bit more psychedelic.
Oh yes, it's definitely one of my favorite themes to draw. I love the 1960s music since I was a kid. I love the culture of peace and love, and I even wear my hair like them still, and I walk barefoot in the house. Like I love a lot of the things they love. I feel like I was supposed to be back there in 1969 Woodstock. So this was actually all drawn digitally. I taught that to myself when I was about 16, 17. The computer was still new to me, and this one I drew much later. I drew this one last year, but the digital aspect came later on in my life, like a teenager as opposed to like a 3-year-old. But all this is drawn with the mouse layer by layer. And I wanted to show something to symbolize, like when your eyes close, like when you're really at peace and your eyes close, then you could open your inner eyes and see like the rest of the world in another way. And your inner light, which is the beam that's coming out of the world, is coming out of a sitar. So it's sort of inspired by a George Harrison song. It was called Inner Light. So that's what I was listening to when I was drawing this. I tend to listen to a lot of music when I'm at home painting. And, if I hear a certain lyric or a certain thing that moves me, I'll make the sketch really quick on paper first, but then I'll start drawing it digitally.
Okay. Here you are wearing a T-shirt of that, and that brings me actually to the point. If you want to, and we're going to send out a link via email, and we'll post it on our page. If you want to support, our local artists who are selling some of their designs, you can go on Deborah's page on Redbubble, and you can get things on all sorts of things. What T-shirts? What else do they have?
Oh, they have mugs. They have tote bags. They have masks. They even have children's masks, children's clothes. They have all different things, comforters. So they have about 90 products that my art I customized and sized specifically for each piece, including greeting cards as well. So it's quite a few things to choose from. And I have about 480 of my works up there so far. And I keep building it every couple of days. I keep making new art constantly and putting it up.
That's nice. You mentioned, the face mask. That's one thing we would never expect to be buying in the year a year ago, But yeah, you can buy all this art now on face masks, and that's an interesting way of displaying. I like this one here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's the mandarin fish. So it's a rare type of species, and I remember I discovered this fish through Mike. My stepdad, he loved all kinds of fish. He had his own aquarium. He liked the saltwater fish. He didn't actually have this type of fish because I don't know if you could have this one as a pet in particular, but he always spoke about the different kinds. And I remember how pretty it was when I looked it up. when he was here. And I said, I have to draw this one day. And, eventually I ended up drawing it many years later, but I know Mike is seeing it from heaven right now because he loved those sea animals. So that's what was the motivation to draw this fish.
Now, what were you listening to here?
Oh boy, probably a lot of darker stuff, probably. Yeah. I mean, with everything that's light, there's also dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like no person is only light or only dark. They're sort of a combination of both. But this was when I was back like in college, and I was going through a rough emotional time. So, sort of like a self-portrait of myself, like looking in all different directions, confused, like where am I going? Where am I going? And then if you look at the very bottom, that's the main person carrying all these things going on, all these like morbid feelings, I would say, of like sort of like hopelessness. But I'm not in that area anymore in my life. That's why I say like every piece was created when it was supposed to be created in its own personal time frame. So this is what I felt the need to express when I was feeling a bad emotion, and it came out, and it does make me feel more empowered. It makes me feel better because I got out what was going on in here in my head. So that's what I expressed there.
Good one. I like this one.
Oh, thank you.
Another beautiful one.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a lion. I love, like I said, all kinds of animals, but I don't always like to draw them in the traditional way. So like this one, I wanted to put more meaning in it. I wanted to show sort of like how the lion is sort of married to the nature, with instead of his fur being just fur, it's grass. And then you see the waterfall with the tree growing out of his head, and then the roots under his chin. And then like the little clouds, like, and then the mountains over his eyes. So I wanted to make it sort of like trippy, but to have some kind of meaning too. Like the lion is one with his land, and he should never be separated from it, and we should respect them more.
And now we turn to a different one of your favorite forms of art. That's cooking.
Yes. I've loved cooking since I was probably like 9, 10. I got into it more, when I had a little more skills. Like I don't think a 3-year-old would want to. Well, they would like to want to make cake, but I don't know how clean they would be at making a cake. So, like I loved experimenting in the kitchen, especially with the quarantine. Like when it was harder, like to go out to eat. So I wanted to try, inventing more and more recipes, playing around, sort of like playing around with paint, except it's stuff you can eat, So,
sure.
Like I did, like that's like a braised chicken. I love dark meat chicken, so I braised that with a tomato bacon sauce and all different vegetables. And it's a long process, but the reward is worth it. To have something delicious and hot and nutritious too. All different things are going on in it. Like I never like to do simple things. Like simple is not my name. Like I like everything complicated. Different things going on in it. So
looks tasty. And right now there's a bunch of people out there watching this who are looking at it and saying, I have the same exact plate at home.
I know, right?
that plate shows up in everyone's homes.
Yep, and that one too. Those are the two patterns we have here. And that's my baked ziti that I made a couple weeks ago, and I layered it. I like to make my homemade red sauce from scratch all the time. And I tried so many different variations, but I always like to, try something a little different this time, a little different next time, because I always like to keep it fresh and interesting. So it's always a surprise.
So here's a personal note, Deborah and Art. So here I am with my beautiful cat Lucky, big sexy Lucky, one of the kindest cats I've ever had the pleasure to know. And she passed away a few weeks back, and Deborah painted this for us in tribute of Lucky, and it's just absolutely beautiful. We love it so much, and just wanted to thank you and show everybody what a great tribute you made.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure, to paint her. I love all animals, and especially when they pass, like I know they're going to make a trip to the Rainbow Bridge, and I think every pet's trip is a little bit different. So like I've drawn different tributes in the past, like for the pets going, but when I saw Lucky's picture, this is a tribute I saw in my head of this is how she's going to go. So she's holding on to the world, and your initials and Josephine's initials are on the world because you were her world. So her paw is on there, and then you see like the little star floating out of her paw with her initials, and the light just shining down on her as she's covered in the blanket of her life, going from kittenhood to adulthood and beyond. So that's the story I saw when I saw her picture.